Roll call of the voting members. Keith Allgood.
Present.
Tony Campbell.
Present.
Tom Cullen.
Here.
Tony Gross.
Here.
Brian McCain, absent. Mike Patno, that's me. Glenn Remick.
Here.
Chuck Slater.
Here.
Bob Stoller.
Here.
Non-voting staff, Sharon Armstrong.
Present.
Sitting in for John Lawless, Brandy Miniot, and Jennifer No.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. You have the commission meeting minutes from June 13th in your packet.
Move to approve.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved. And you have today's agenda in front of you. You have a
Move
motion?
to approve.
We've got a second?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Apologize. I would like to request that we amend the agenda.
Okay, thank you, because I had forgotten.
To add an item to discuss the newly implemented county development tax.
Okay, so that's under new business. Would that be item D?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so to discuss the new county development tax. Okay. Thank you. All right, so as amended with adding item D under new business to discuss the new county development tax. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the agenda's approved. No old business. So starting with new business, this is really, item A is broken down into two parts. What it says is the BP at 121 Liven Hills Road, Kingston Springs, map 96, parcel 5102. So there's a consideration of a signage plan and consideration of a site and utility plan revision. What we will do is the site and utility plan revision first. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So we'll turn over to the planner.
Thank you. From our last meeting, there has been a change in the use of part of the building for the BP that's being reconstructed. Since we met last, they have submitted an amended site and utility plan to accommodate that use and to propose that they be allowed to do that. Contained also within that is an application that came in for review for signage for the convenience store and for the proposed restaurant use. All of this has been reviewed by staff. After 3 resolutions, the signage plan meets our regulations. It does not exceed, even with the combined use, combined signage for the convenience store and the proposed restaurant. So it does not exceed the square footage at all. The site plan, it takes up, the restaurant area that's proposed takes up about 42% of the structure. So right now, the exterior of the building has been constructed and inspected as it goes along. There's a partition wall between the convenience store and the proposed restaurant side. No work has been done on the proposed restaurant side. So tonight, they're asking for approval of the site and utility plan. Nothing's changed other than the proposed use and the division of that building into 2 spaces, one being 121A Liven Hills Road for the convenience store. The other will be 121B. They need to be separately addressed because of the uses. There's a greater fire risk at a restaurant than there is at a convenience store because of the stove and the hood. So we asked them to have it addressed separately so that application is in place. So I have reviewed the site plan, I have reviewed the turnout, I have reviewed the utility plan, I have reviewed the sewer, everything meets regulations. So it's at the discretion of the planning commission whether you wish to approve the use of that side of the building for a restaurant. Following, if it is approved, there will be other requirements that will need to be met. One will be a traffic study, because the number of seats within the restaurant will increase the intensity of traffic, so a traffic study will be required. If you remember, we revised traffic study requirements a few months back, so they will be required to intake the TPR that TDOT did, the most recent one for the city, the Thornton's traffic study, and the proposed traffic study that's been done for the McPherson development, all of that traffic data, as it builds and is more recent, will be used to, if it's approved, for them to internalize for their traffic study.
Okay.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
There was a question come up earlier about the 50-foot easement coming in adjacent to the motel. Looking at it, it's nothing close to 50 foot. So I don't know whether, I know that the city manager had been questioned about it by the laws, I think. Has anybody looked at it? Is it there? Has it been measured?
I understood the fencing that they have set up goes past that point, and that they understood that the fencing was going to be pulled back, and that they're constructing.
Well, they were down there landscaping it.
Well, I don't know anything about that part, but when they put that fencing, I understand it exceeded that into the 50-foot easement, just so that they could work
Yeah.
on the area that needed to work on.
Well,
Are you
this-
saying that they're going all the way up to the fence?
When I asked questions, they were there down there landscaping. The fence wasn't there.
Okay.
The landscaping plan was addressed separately from the site plan. There is a landscape plan that was brought before the planning commission with the origination of the convenience store proposal. The landscaping requirements are based on square footage of the building, so they don't increase or decrease.
But what I'm asking is that they've infringed upon the easement to the property, the law property behind that.
They have not. No.
You've been out there and measured it? I mean, I saw them within 6 foot of the motel raking.
When this site plan was drafted, the easement was a measured easement. We had them table that off and measure it out, so they have not encroached on the easement at all.
Which seems to be 14 feet from the side of the building here.
Yeah, I'm looking at the thing, and
I
I'm here to
understand
tell
your
you,
concern.
my eyes tell me that it's not so.
Okay.
It is close, but it does not infringe on the easement as it was laid out. It was, to remind the planning commission members who are, have been here for a while, and particularly for the newer planning commission members, there is a property behind this property. We required them to secure a deeded easement agreement, if you remember when this project first started. So, Mr. Campbell, it is tight to the easement, but it does not encroach.
I'm gonna go look. I don't think that's
Yes,
right.
I think, yeah, we all.
But it is deeded. We have seen the deed.
Yes, sir.
And
That deed and the contractual agreement came before this planning commission and was reviewed by staff. It is filed. It is a filed document. It's filed with the deed, the register of the clerk's office in Cheatham County. We also maintain a copy here. We worked all of that through because we had the same concerns that the planning commission did, that we did not want to cut off access to
Right.
another lot. So that came, and I realize it's been some time, that came in 2017, when they first proposed the convenience store. And it's a measured, drawn out, platted easement.
All right, I'm going to leave it at this, but I'm telling you that the city hall has received phone calls from the people who own the property behind
Here.
saying that the easement doesn't exist within
If
their
there's
vision.
encroachment on the easement and the building was constructed and does land on that easement, but from what I'm being told by the building inspector for the layout, it's not.
Okay,
If it does, they'll have to deconstruct what was on that easement and move it.
I just want to make sure that the easement's there because that's a pretty valuable piece of land in behind it. Now,
It is
it may
a
have been rendered
deeded
useless, but,
access easement that has been surveyed.
okay.
Okay. Are there any other questions on the site and utility plan? Tom, did you have any? Good. Okay, so Sharon has reviewed the site and utility plan for us.
Recommend
Shoot.
approval.
Okay.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I got a quick question.
Okay,
So, when we first discussed this, this was just gonna be a gas station, correct?
right.
That's correct.
So, just out of my curiosity, do we know when it became a restaurant and exceeded all of the allowable and/or approved facility planning commission regulations? When did it all of a sudden become a restaurant?
Two things occurred. One, the building inspector made an inspection for the frame out of the building on the interior and discovered a partition wall.
Yeah, I remember that. I'm just interested in when the owners decided that it was going to become a restaurant. And it became a restaurant as opposed to potentially a mixed use or just a gas station when it was approved to just be a gas station. That's my question. I don't know if you can answer that. I don't know if
cannot
anyone's here
answer
that
that.
can answer that, but I just think that it's very interesting that they came before us, presented something to us, and then decided to go ahead and make the building bigger without any approval and to decide to use it for something else other than what it was approved to do.
Pay permits on
I do have a brief comment on that. It's not bigger.
That's
The
not,
actual original proposed structure was 5,465 square feet.
okay,
They ended up constructing 4,600 square
Okay.
feet.
Thank
So
you.
the building footprint actually is
Shrank.
smaller than it
Okay.
was proposed originally. Staff had no idea until an inspection was
Right.
conducted. And then there was some conversation on a local Facebook page
okay,
that led to some conversation with the developer and the owner.
okay,
And that conversation then led to a stop being issued and the issue being addressed. So for the planning commission, they have voted to approve the site plan. With the site
Right.
plan showing both uses,
correct.
they're allowing the use. But beyond the approval of the site plan, there's still steps they have to engage in.
Correct, to make this
in
actual,
order to get that process completely finished.
okay,
So while the site plan's approving the use, there are still hurdles that have to be satisfied
That is correct.
to actually put in a restaurant.
We are still lacking a complete set of construction plans for that side of the building,
Mhm.
to build out. There will be a traffic study that will be required and reviewed by by staff and brought to the planning commission. All of those are required because it increases the intensity of the use
Right.
of the lot.
So is it fair to say that the traffic study is not just a formality, but it's a review of whether the impact is acceptable?
gonna be significant.
It is. It's a review. After multiple projects were proposed on Lyman Hills Road, increased our specification. for
Each one
traffic
does,
information
each one
studies.
does, yes.
And amended the zoning ordinance to include that. The ordinance as written originally did not require them to incorporate traffic at any adjacent intersection. So now they'll have to incorporate the traffic that comes off of Kingston Springs Road. They'll have to incorporate the traffic that comes from the Petro Inn forward. They'll have to incorporate the traffic that's created by the Thornton's report. Mr. McPherson his engineering team has conducted a traffic study, so those numbers will also feed into it. All of that traffic increase on a corridor that's rated F will have to go through TDOT to see if there's enough stacking availability to the on-ramp to accommodate the traffic at peak hours. As you know, the Thornton's project kind of barely got there, the traffic. With the influx of development teeing into Lyman Hills Road proposed by Mr. McPherson, if that survives vetting, that will only increase the traffic. So TDOT has a safety standard that has to be met, particularly when it interacts with state road and an interstate. Yes, sir.
Has the parking been taken into consideration, the addition of the
Has.
restaurant?
And that's something that, as we go through planning and zoning one-on-one and continue those sessions, is something we really need to look at, because your parking is done by square footage.
Yeah.
Is
100
it different
square
for
feet.
restaurants than for convenience stores?
It is, I'm sorry?
Is the number of parking spaces required different for a restaurant
It
than
is
for
not.
a?
It is not, it is based on, it's not even based on the use, which is my own.
It's the square footage of the
It's
building.
based on the square footage of the building. Every 100 square feet of a building gets parking space.
So you get
If
46
it's-
parking places there?
One parking space for every one, so it's 46 is what's required for
Does
that.
that include the spaces under the canopy?
Those are not parking spaces.
Well, I know That a lot of people use them that way.
They may use them that way, but that's considered a transitory location structure, and it doesn't feed into the number of spaces that are required. Although I, like you, frequently wonder if people are going to remain there overnight.
Is there 46 in this drawing?
There are.
So is it fair to say that there's a possibility that if the traffic study was not acceptable, then the restaurant use would not be acceptable?
There is that potential, although it's an allowable use under the zoning as it sits right now. The primary function of planning and zoning is health, safety, and welfare.
Right.
That's the first thing on planning and zoning. If the traffic study exceeds the tolerance level for stacking to go on the on-ramp of the interstate and backs the traffic up to East Kingston Springs Road at peak hour, that's an intolerable circumstance because it impedes the flow of traffic on another major corridor. Kingston Springs Road and Living Hills Road are your two major traffic producers.
Mhm.
So you can't back traffic up into another corridor because there's no stop, there's no red light, there's no way to control that traffic break.
Mhm.
If any of you have gone towards the north end of the county recently where the Lowe's went in Robertson County, they now have a double, it's actually a triple stoplight. There's one at the Highway 41, Kingston, Pleasant View. Then you travel up to the first set of convenience stores, there's a stoplight. Then you travel up to the next one, there's a stoplight. So you're stopping 3 times, and there's an on-ramp to the interstate and an off-ramp to the interstate, right in between all of those traffic signals. So that can create stacking that's intolerable. So that's something that the traffic study now has to take into account. Can we accommodate the stacking?
I think years ago, there was going to be part of a transportation improvement of Liven Hills Road with landscaping and sidewalks and all of that. How does that interact with what we're
How that
debating?
interacts with this particular project, there will be on both sides of Liven Hills Road for that project. That does not, for traffic count purposes, weigh in, but for the timing of construction, if it survives the traffic study process, the timing of construction is going to have to be really well managed in order not to create gridlock.
Will there be curb cuts
Yes.
into here, or will the whole front be open to the street?
No, there will be curb cuts. TDOT has approved, and again, our control stops on State Road. We're very limited as to what we can do and what we can't do. TDOT approves connections to state roads. We don't even get input. They don't even notify us when they issue it or review it, much as with the Thornton's project. They approved 2 driveways, one for truck traffic, one for car traffic, without any interaction with the city. When we called to ask why they were laid out so closely together, then they required the developer to come back to the city and have us look at it and see if there were any changes. So we changed it. We split them further apart, made them a little more manageable. I would propose that in this particular case, if the use is approved, that we use that same method so that we at least get some input in where the traffic dumps out into the road.
Will there be 1 or 2, you know?
They're only showing one entrance so far. One.
Question.
TDOT's not,
When the multimodal takes place, will it encroach on any parking spaces that are here?
any part of,
Parking spaces?
no.
Sure that.
But to further, I apologize, Mr. Campbell, to further what Mr. Cullen is asking for, the permit for the entrance to Living Hills Road is still under review by the regional division of TDOT. I spoke to the engineer on that project a couple of days ago. He has indicated that the plan meets what they would like to see, but they will probably advise the applicant by letter and require a letter from the city saying that we're okay with it. So when the final layout plan, once it gets into their right-of-way, it's not even shown on the site plan because we don't have any control of it.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So we have the site and utility plan. We're not talking signs right now. Do we have a motion on that?
Move to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that motion passes. And now, let me get back to my page here. So I'm going to recess the planning commission meeting right now because we're going to convene the design review committee. So I know. So, all right, I'm calling to order the Kingston Springs Design Review Board for July 11th. We'll have a roll call of voting members. Keith Allgood. Tony Campbell.
Here.
Tom Cullen. Here. Tony Gross.
Here.
Brian McCain's absent. Mike Patnode here. Glenn Remick.
Here.
Chuck Slater.
Here.
Bob Stoller.
Here.
Non-voting staff, Sharon Armstrong.
Present.
In for John Wallace, Brandy, and Jennifer Nutt.
Here.
Okay, so we have a quorum of the Design Review Board. In your packet, you have the minutes from the last Design Review Board meeting.
Move to approve.
Okay, all right, all in favor? Aye. Okay, so those minutes are approved, and now we have an agenda for this meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that agenda's approved. So we have no old business, and we have one item on new business, and that is, again, the BP 121 Liven Hills Road, consideration of the signage plan. So we have the planning review in front of you. Sharon, did you want to bring up anything in particular about it?
You also have in your packet copies of the signs. There were 3 resolutions of this particular sign package submitted to the city. The first 2 were disapproved and sent back because they did not meet our sign ordinance. They exceeded the sign ordinance in square footage and height and in location. So the pylon sign that you're seeing here will be relatively close to the entrance, as most of them are. It does not exceed the sign ordinance for height. It does not exceed the sign ordinance for lighting. It does not exceed the sign ordinance for the amount of advertising space. So it falls within the square footage. The sign ordinance does allow them to put several other signs for pump toppers and that sort of thing. They're limited. They have submitted those graphics. Those are at staff review level because they're not permanent pictures. The second set that you see here are the canopy signs. The first one submitted was lit all the way around the canopy on all 4 sides. It was 84 feet by 36 inches tall. So we turned those back in. Second revolution had graphics that were lit and the Sunoco sign. We turned that one back around, and we now have what meets the sign ordinance. So the square footage is calculated on the sign. The only lit portion will be behind the Sunoco. There will be no other lit portion on canopy because we do not allow excessive lighting on the canopy because of the adjacency to the quarter and also because of the adjacency to residential locations. So that's the canopy sign. You will also see typical signage for the pumps with their logo. They are required to have, for fire codes, several signs. They have to have bollard signs, they have to have fuel signs, there are signs that we have no control over that are done for fire code purposes. So we ignored those. Behind the site plan again, you will now see the signage for the face of the building. Again, does not exceed code. Does not exceed what we allow. The original presentation that was submitted had signage on 3 sides of the building, all lit, all somewhat large. We turned those back around. After much discussion with the Sunoco folks and with the applicant, we received a little over 3 weeks ago a signage package that meets the ordinance. So that's what you have in front of you.
Is that a drive-through?
Pardon?
Is that a drive-through on your left here?
This,
Right.
is this a drive-through?
Seems like an odd side to have to drive.
I apologize, I asked. Is this a drive-through? So it's
It
pickup
is
window.
a drive.
It's a pickup window. The original convenience convenience store, I don't know if you guys remember the layout of that, but they sometimes
that
serve
was turned down.
sandwiches and they would sometimes ID you and let you have beer out the window. This is not on the restaurant side, this is the store side.
I thought,
It replicates kind of the design of the
I
original
thought we
building.
turned that down. What? The takeout window.
This is the first I heard about a takeout window.
It was discussed the first time it come up, and I thought we turned it, said they couldn't do it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Campbell, I apologize.
Well, it's not a matter of apologizing. Chuck said the same thing. He'd never seen it before. I'm saying we saw it the first time that it came here, and we turned it down, or you turned it down.
The
Takeout window.
Takeout window.
takeout window, this is not on the restaurant side of the building, and I don't remember them ever submitting one before. This is the first time. I went back and reviewed all of the plans that were submitted to the planning commission. All that was submitted to the planning commission originally, Mr. Campbell, was this. And we had a set of draft construction drawings. We didn't have any of the graphic layout because they
I
did not
understand
employ a
that.
firm that did them. So this is the first time, frankly, I've seen the takeout window as well. I did discuss it with the building official. We both would prefer that it's not there, but there's nothing in the regulations that will allow us to not let them have that drive around. It exists at the Shell for the RVs. You can drive all the way around the building. If you got what you want, it exists. It will exist probably in some way at Petro. It exists almost every place that they put them in.
No.
Petro doesn't have
No,
one?
it does not.
They don't have any?
No, they don't have a drive-in window, it's
No,
drive-through
no
window.
drive-through or takeout.
So Petro does not have one.
No,
Has never had one.
no.
The Shell station is always one.
Good for the Petro. I apologize for that error. The Shell has one
Where is it?
That's a restaurant.
both ends of the building.
It's a restaurant there. The Shell.
Pardon?
The Shell takeout window's a part of the
It
restaurant.
is.
What are you gonna take out of this side of the store?
I'm clueless. I mean, again,
I mean-
this is the first time this graphic has made its way to me. I see technical drawings. I don't really see.
Well,
So-
I'm interested in finding out what they're gonna buy from the takeout window.
I would be interested too. The applicants are here.
Nope, if I may. Actually, just like you said, convenience store sometimes sells food in the restaurant, and the convenience store side as well, so that's what it's designed.
What are they gonna take out?
Food.
Just food?
I mean, they're allowed to take out as far as regular, sodas, food, candy bars.
So there's things that you cannot sell.
Huh?
So there are things that you cannot sell through the window.
There are, yeah, there are some restrictions as far as, alcohol and everything there.
You gonna hire somebody to man the takeout window?
Are we gonna hire somebody? That is the plan. I'm not planning on running through the 50 square feet of the store.
If I might make an observation, the restaurant is on the right
We know
front
where it is.
elevation of the building. This window is located on the left front
Exactly.
elevation of the building. If you're ordering takeout food, it would seem rational to me that you would get it on the right elevation of the building. But there's absolutely no way that that can be accommodated with a drive-through lane around this building. So my advice to this planning commission, we're kind of talking about signage now, we're in design review, so we really need to go back to the planning commission to have this discussion.
Well,
Good point.
let's finish the design review. Okay, we've heard the discussion on the signage. Do we have a motion on the signage?
I move to approve the signage.
I have a question concerning the signage.
Yes.
The signage as we see here, where is Highway 55 going to place their signage?
Highway 55 has a sign only on the building, it's on the front elevation.
They're not going to plan to put something underneath the Sunoco?
Not on the marquee.
No,
Not on the
Okay.
marquee? Okay.
no, they're at max. So, unless they succeed in getting a variance from the sign review board, which I would strongly discourage, because if you grant one, everybody else gets one too. So that means we will get an application for every other vendor. So this is their sign.
That's the only Highway 55 sign on
That
the
is it.
property. Okay. So we had a motion to
And they are
approve
maxed.
the signage. Any other questions on the signage? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor of the signage?
Aye.
Okay, so the signage passes. So, that was the only item. We will now adjourn the design review board, and we will,
Second.
thank you. And we will reopen the planning commission. So, we talked about the site and utility plan. Now we're talking about a window on the
We
building.
are. With the construction plans that were originally submitted to full review, this window did not exist. Still doesn't exist. So, this particular drawing has a window. If there's a framed-in window on the building, my advice to this planning commission is that it falls outside of the approved construction plans. We have seen, as I told you earlier in the meeting, no construction plans for the restaurant, because they can't produce plans for review unless the use is approved. If the use is approved with site utility plan, which you did, when the construction plans come in, my advice would be there is no availability of space within this very small footprint lot to have a drive around this building without interrupting the flow of traffic. It doesn't become, it's not a question of accommodating a particular use within the building. It's a question of safety on the lot, because you're going to have two sets of traffic trying to navigate a very small space. So when the construction plans come in, I would reject an open window for service on the convenience store.
Why are you saying there's gonna be a lot of traffic? I don't understand that.
When you open, particularly, Mr. Slater, when you open a new restaurant in any small town, it's heavily traveled for the first several months, and then traffic kind of levels off. You also have gas station customers who are interacting with that lot. You have people who stop in just to buy whatever they need, coffee in the morning, or they want to pick up a lottery ticket or buy a newspaper. So when I say there's going to be a lot of traffic, there's two streams of traffic, one for a restaurant and one for the store. Those two streams of traffic normally will interact from one side of the lot for the restaurant, the other side of the lot for the convenience store. When you open a window out the side of the convenience store side of the building in order to serve food, you're then causing that traffic to circulate around the building. There isn't the physical space to accommodate two sets of traffic in the rear of the building as we go around.
Why would you have two sets of traffic?
If I'm going into the convenience store or I'm going into the restaurant, let's say I'm parking in the rear in one of the lots and I need to
Well, if
exit.
there's enough room to park in the rear, why isn't there enough room to go around it?
There is if one car is exiting or they're stacking, but if you've got two streams of traffic coming around the building at the same time in a space that it's not designed for, you can't accommodate that. There's not enough physical room on the lot. In order to have a drive-through, you need a dedicated lane. It doesn't show up in any of the site plans, it doesn't show up in any of the construction plans. Just like when you drive around the Arby's, there's a dedicated lane for that traffic. When you drive
Dedicated
around the
lane is the-
McDonald's,
is the
there's a
lingo.
dedicated lane for that.
Yeah, but I've never seen a traffic jam in the damn pickup in the lane. That's what I'm saying.
Well, there's 14 feet coming off the building to that 50-foot easement. There's only 14 feet coming from the
Right.
building
Can't fit
to,
two vehicles in there.
yes, there's no way you can put two vehicles in there.
Plus, is that a wall?
What's
that's
that
in the back?
double line?
No, that's what I'm saying.
There's a wall back there. It's to screen utilities, trash, and all those sorts of things which you also require on your site plans. So you've got things external to the building in the back of the building. You've got parking in the back of the building. You've got people trying to exit around the building. And then you're asking to open a window.
You have parking going
Contribute
from
to
the
the
south
system.
down the
There's
lane.
some room to do it.
Okay,
I don't see it.
I just want to make sure I know where we are here. So, we've approved a site and utility plan. We have not approved any construction plan.
That is correct.
Okay.
Approved.
We got a picture of the store with signs on it, so we could approve the sign plan, which has these two signs.
That's correct.
In this picture of the store, there is a drive-through window, which is not approved in the sign plan,
That is correct.
which was not approved in the site and utility plan, which would be part of the construction plan later to be reviewed and approved.
That is
So,
correct.
and we've heard a lot of discussion about it, so we've talked about it, but it's not even in today's meeting agenda.
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you, Chairman.
yes,
Thank you.
okay. I just wanted to make sure, I wanted to make sure I knew where we were. Okay, so,
I'm still not sure.
all right. So, we were reacting to the picture, but it's a future item.
It is indeed. The
Okay.
construction
In other
plans
words,
were originally
They can't
submitted.
leave here and go build the window.
No, sir, they cannot.
Because we don't have approved construction documents.
That is correct.
Okay,
Plus, half of the building is just approved for a usage right now.
That is correct.
right, okay. So, now that we've reconvened the planning commission and we have an approved signage for the building, it says here, help me
We
with
have
this.
a recommendation for the design review committee.
We have a recommendation now from our design review board.
We just recommended
We
to
just
ourselves
did.
to
Yeah.
vote on this, correct.
Approve it.
That's where, yeah, I don't have the personality to handle it. Okay, so we need a motion to approve what we just recommended, right?
That's correct.
Okay, do we have, all right, do we have a second? And do we have, all in favor?
All in favor?
Okay, is anybody opposed? All right, so we have approved our recommendation for the design review board. All right, so the next item is this a presentation for consideration, is that what it is, of the permitting and zoning review process?
Yes,
7B?
this is
Okay.
basically amending what you currently have in your zoning and setting forth, because you have a city planner and you have a building inspector, and under the prior codes, you didn't address really who was doing what, and so this is kind of based upon what was at last month's meeting and the board's recommendations on what you were wanting to look. And of course, anytime you have an amendment to your zoning ordinance, it has to be recommended first by the planning commission, and then it would go to the regular board.
Mhm.
And so this is to kind of set forth what the building inspector does, as well as the town's planner.
I move that we recommend this to the city commission for approval.
Second.
Do we have any discussion on this before we vote? Okay, all in favor? Oh, I'm sorry?
But one thing, and if we need to amend it, we can amend this at the time that it goes to the city council, but, and it's the next item on the agenda, the county has developed, the taxes again. And so in reviewing those, they are requiring part of it to be, collected on the front end, with the other collected at the back end. So we may need to tweak this language a little bit. But I think we're gonna need to work with the county on how we're gonna try and
Okay.
collect those. So I did wanna bring that to the attention of the
Okay.
board, so.
But paragraph C in here does talk about that the development taxes are paid. You're just talking about the how-tos based on the new process?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
yes.
all right. So, that was just FYI to us, or we're supposed to recommend approval of this, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That motion. in front
Motion,
of you.
do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we pass that recommendation to the city council. Item C, setting the meeting for the second community planning and zoning meeting. Suggested date is Saturday, July 27th at 5 PM.
I'd
Feedback
like to
that
like
I've
it.
gotten from community members is that during the week is somewhat difficult for them to get to the meeting. If, for those of you who have institutional history, when we did the AIA planning sessions and the land use planning sessions, we did them on Saturdays. The land use was held at the Methodist Church, the AIA was held at the high school, and they were heavily attended because people were able to get free from weekly obligations. So Thursday seems to be a challenge for a lot of people. That's when we held the one last time. So I'm recommending that we do it on a Saturday. It will be a much more in-depth discussion. We'll start to explore vacant parcels and what we need to look at, transportation cures, infrastructure improvements, so it'll be a much more in-depth. I anticipate it'll last about an hour, unless there's a lot of questions. And I'm saying the presentation, because we're getting
The presentation will last them all.
Right, we're getting into the meat of planning, so that we don't find ourselves having 2-hour discussions in a planning commission about what the process is.
Will you, prevent or present the information about all these very large parcels that are supposedly undevelopable
Yes.
inside the city limits, and you will discuss why they are undevelopable.
That is correct. I'm going to discuss not only the process of planning and permitting and development, I'm going to discuss the limiting factors that are present, particularly in Kingston Springs. Every jurisdiction has particulars. Here, blue line streams and flood areas are very limited. Topography is somewhat limiting, so we'll discuss that as well.
Ownership somewhat limiting.
In particular, ownership.
Okay?
I have problems with the 27th. That's too soon.
So do you have an alternate?
Well, sometime later than that. I don't have my calendar with me.
Okay, this is
But-
on a Saturday at 5 p.m. and it may be 5 p.m.
Well, it's
If
just
you
2
wanna
weeks
move
from
it-
now.
If you want to move it to a later time, I'm ambivalent. I mean, the time to me, the time of day to me is not a factor. But
So-
I really wanted to do it on a non-work day so that we can encourage participation. I
Non-work
think
day.
the article in the newspaper should be
Not a
targeted.
I don't have a problem with that, but I just have a problem.
So the next two Saturdays are August 3rd and August 10th.
School's in session.
What? I mean, I could do it in mid-August. It doesn't give me time to plan anything or do anything. And
Well, the date, again, is up to the planning commission. You can set whichever date you want.
I just don't know what
Thursdays
to
are-
mid-August.
Challenging. because
So-
we have several jurisdictions that meet
Okay,
on Thursday.
so Tony thinks it's coming up close, which it is. Glenn points out that school's in session if we go later. Any other thoughts on the date? I mean,
I
I'm.
suggest August sometime.
Huh?
I suggest sometime in August, maybe
Mid-Au-
the 11th or
mid-August
the
would be
18th,
okay.
something in the middle part of the month.
Saturday evening, Glenn?
Saturday after, didn't have to do it in the evening, but you could do it at
No, do it in the afternoon.
Normally, we try to accommodate folks whose kids may be playing sports,
Activities.
who may be part of a soccer league, who may be down at the middle school practicing on Saturday for football. So we're trying to encourage the most participation that we can, but I'm willing to meet whenever you think is best.
I think mid-August, middle of the day, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever.
I don't think anyone would show up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 'cause
I think the
On a
evening.
Saturday,
I think the
you know,
evening on
everyone's
Saturday is better because
Okay,
there's too many
that's
kid
fine.
activities.
My experience in 30 or 40 years of putting meetings on around here, so that's probably not a problem.
Say 11th or 18th would be fine.
The 11th or 18th of August.
That would give you,
Okay.
what, 3-4
the
cycles of
11th
paper?
is a Sunday, right?
You're talking about the 10th.
17th.
You're talking about the 10th or 17th. Those are Saturdays.
Whatever days they are.
Yeah. Well, I can't be here on the 17th. I'll be out of town. There's no way I can fix that. So how does the 10th sound to everybody?
so moved.
Everybody good with the 10th? Okay.
I think so.
How about you, Glenn?
Sure.
Okay. Sharon, you good with the 10th? Okay. So we picked the 10th, August 10th. Will there be people there to write about it? Oh, okay, great.
Maybe we can back to school jam.
Is there something going
It is,
On the 3rd.
on the 3rd or
Back to
10th?
school jam is the 3rd. No, school starts the 5th.
there's something that the community bank is sponsoring in Pegram, a new meeting for the schools
Movies.
in August, and I want to say it was the 10th.
Okay.
But I could be wrong.
Is it an evening?
Those will usually take place.
Yes, they would, well, it's a carnival thing that the bank and the school board are doing together. They're,
That's the back to school bash, and that's on the 3rd in the morning.
Every Saturday.
I know,
Back to, hot dogs. Yeah.
Okay.
Just do that.
So let's plan on the 10th then. It sounds like it's the 3rd. Brandy, if something comes up big, let us.
2 p.m.
Are you guys thinking afternoon or early evening?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
Okay,
5.
5.
Have hot dogs.
Well, Bob wants beer there. So.
Bob's bringing it.
Bob Spring, yeah. There's no alcohol allowed in that building, so.
Y'all bring your own cups.
Okay.
All right, so that's item C. We're talking August 10th at 5 PM. Item D, the one that we added with the amendment. Sharon, that's the last item.
Development tax. The county has re-implemented or raised the development tax for all residential development within the county. It was lowered to $50 per residential unit. Shortly after the flood occurred in 2010, they have now increased it to $3,000. The process is a little bit different than it was before. Before you went to the county, you paid your development tax, then you came and got your they stamped your building permit application saying you paid your development tax, then you came back to Kingston Springs and we issued the permit.
You paid a development tax here.
No, you paid it in the county.
Kingston
I
Springs
checked
has a
with Debbie
development.
today.
Huh?
You're talking about adequate facilities.
Okay.
Yeah, it was always paid in the county. Debbie said that they paid it in the county. It forces the resident, the applicant, to go to Cheatham County, pay, now you pay a portion of it, of the development tax. You come back, we issue your permit, you construct, then you have to go back and pay the other portion of the development tax. Then you come back and we do your final and issue your CO.
But you're saying that we impose then what you're calling adequate facilities tax?
Yes, sir. You
How's
have-
that different than the development tax?
It is. You have an adequate facilities tax of 40 cents for the city that's been in place for as long as I've
Forever.
worked here. The county has it's an impact fee, for lack of a better word. It's a development tax.
That's what we passed here. Now, I don't know what you called it or anything, but the basic idea was the same as the counties, and we did it ahead of the county.
In the Bellevue Exchange, or I mean in the Cheatham County Exchange today, they talked about both of those taxes separately. And they talked about the county implementing the higher development tax, and then they talked also about the adequate facilities tax, and they listed them separately in the article.
Well, I'm just trying to find out. I mean, a tax is a tax is a tax.
It is.
And I'm very favorable, very supportive of, quote, the development tax or adequate facilities tax, either one, that people that build houses here ought to be paying for the infrastructure and the things that they require to develop. I just,
And I think what Sharon's bringing up is simply for our attention. We're talking about our review process of permitting, and the fact that this process now of how they pay that development tax needs to be folded into our process for reviewing permits.
That's why I said we may have to
We may
make a
have to
change to that
amend.
ordinance, because I had that all fees would be paid before a building permit would be issued.
Right.
But with this, part of the fees you would have, part of the fees would have to be paid before the CO is issued. Now, it goes back in front of the commission again on Monday night, and they're talking about making more changes. So instead of muddying the water, I left the ordinance as it is, got your approval, and then if we need to make changes when it goes in front of the board, then the county commission will have already met, and we'll know if there's any more tweaking. And then they also increased the privilege tax, as it's called, from, it was 50 cents and, I'm sorry, it was 10 cents, and it's gone up to 50 cents.
Okay.
So not only do you have the one, but you've got the other, which is gonna make the building of residential extremely expensive in town.
Okay, so that was information.
I still want to know then, the tax here is paid when?
The adequate facilities tax is collected when a permit is issued here. The
Okay.
development tax is collected by the county.
Okay. Anything else on that?
No, sir.
Does anybody else have anything before we close the meeting? Okay. So do
Can
we
I
have-
ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Where are the other, we did 3 stop work orders at the last meeting.
Yes, sir.
One of them has been resolved.
It's
What's happened to the other two?
Thornton's has resolved their stop work. As you know, we issued a stop on a portion of the property until they filed the plat. The plat has been filed and is duly recorded. They brought up the Mylar, and one resides with the county. So there's one in both locations. The next stop work order, we actually issued a couple after the planning commission met. They were small footprint. One was for a fireworks tent. Another was for Mr. McPherson. Mr. McPherson's stop work is still in place on phase 2 of the property. In spite of best efforts, weekly inspections, pictures, whatever we could do, they filled and compacted phase 2 of the project with a permit. So we discussed that last time. It will lie dormant because on top of the compacted fill, they have now deposited the excavated soil from phase 1. So I did an inspection today. I reviewed the engineering report for phase 1. They are down to bedrock. The soil has been sorted. That's the big pile you see up next to the road. I reminded them again, it's not supposed to be next to the road. They will start to layer that one lift at a time. It will be engineered, compacted, inspected, one layer at a time. When that is done, then all the soil that resides on phase 2 will come off and we can core it and see where we are. So there is absolutely I issued the grading permit because this is an NOV and falls outside of building permits, it falls to zoning. So I reviewed their request for a grading permit to begin deposit and compaction on phase 1 today. Once phase 2 is cleared of the loosened soil, and it's been inspected, and the haul tickets have been furnished for that, then I have found a company in Dixon, relatively reasonable, really good at what he does. He's a geotech engineer. We will take several spot core drills to ensure that none of the contaminated concrete would back in the ground. He will review Mr. Goff's work as well, and then that will be a pass-through charge that will likely run somewhere between $8,000 and $1,000 to the developer. But that is on the developer. He proceeded without a permit. We put everything in writing and made it clear to him. So he is now settled down somewhat and is following the plan again. No work can take place on phase 3. None. If a shovel goes in the dirt on phase 3, we'll issue another stop because there's no development approved for that site yet.
Thanks.
So that's where we are on that.
I move we adjourn.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Meeting's adjourned.